I want you to say more about the schedule thing. Emily and I used to have this kind of self-sabotaging bad habit.
Okay.
On the way that we would use the calendar is if there's space on the calendar to get it in, that was our filter for, well, we have time.
Right.
But we forget that just having time doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have the energy,
right,
or the emotional capacity.
Right.
You know, that's the piece. Again, it's not as concrete.
Right.
It's not as easy to measure. And I think we kill ourselves by just shoehorning in all these things into the calendar. 15 minutes between that meeting and that meeting. Okay, slam a phone call in there, and then on the way home, I'm going to be on the phone, and then I come in the door and I'm still on my phone, and you just, technically you have the time. But without the headspace and without your heart being able to show up, I love what you said, be wherever your feet are. You know, you get so distracted when you're just go, 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 and the calendar's full of all this stuff.
Right.
You talked about creating space in your calendar. Do you use your calendar to actually block off things that, to not do things so that you have that margin?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we were talking about this even before we started recording, but I just turned in my manuscript for my next book on life balance. And one of the things that I walk through in the calendar section of this book, the very tactical aspect, is I give the reader several questions to consider before they say yes or no to something. Because exactly like you said, how I used to make decision was, do they need me and can I do it? Like, is there physically time on the calendar? Well, yes, they need you. They're asking. The needs are unending in this world. And if you have the sliver of time where you can cram or crowbar or multitask something in, then every single minute is accounted for. You're living your whole life according to reacting to what other people are asking of you. We never ask ourselves other questions, other more important, better questions. So the premise of the book, and I would say the premise of what I teach on life balance in general, is life balance is not doing everything for an equal amount of time. It's about doing the right things at the right time. When you do the right things at the right time, meaning the season you're in, what is most important right now, then you can feel that sense of balance, but you're not doing everything, you're doing the right thing. So let's go back to the calendar example with you and Emily, and I have done the same things and still can fall into this temptation. We fill our calendars full and we fill our to-do list full, and we never ask ourselves if any of those things are worth doing. Is this worth doing? Is this a priority to me? Do I want to do it? Is this the best use of my time? How will this affect my family? What can I not do if I do this? And what's so interesting, and I struggle with so many of these things, but one of the things that I struggle with, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs do, we love to be the hero, right? Like we have this hero complex. We love to save the day. We love to fill the gap. And so I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, I was pregnant with my third child, Mary Grace, and my son Carter was playing soccer, and we get an email from the soccer team, the YMCA organization. We don't have a coach for your son's team. So we're trying to figure out what to do. We really need a parent to step up. So I think, yes, I will do it. 6 months pregnant me. I am the girl for the job. Not to mention, I was batching all my work to be out for maternity leave. I was 6 months pregnant. I had a crazy schedule. This was a terrible idea. I just reacted to the need, and I paid for it, Tardy. Every single Saturday when I'm having to make a rain call in 42-degree rain for 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, every single Tuesday, organizing who's bringing the oranges and the Gatorade, I paid for it. Now, you would think I learned my lesson. I'm never going to struggle with that again. Next time I'm asked, it's a definite no. Well, fast forward to literally just a few months ago, Carter by the way, Carter didn't even like soccer. So it's like, we're there every Saturday. And he's like, Mommy, can we go home? I was like, I wish. It's like all for nothing. So Carter.
So this is like all about you. This isn't even about Carter. This is about you.
I'm like, well, and I didn't know he hated it at first. At first, I thought he loved it. And then it turns out he hated it, and I had to still show up every week.
Oh my gosh.
So you'd think the lesson was learned. Within this last year, Carter has convinced me he in fact loves soccer and definitely wants to play again. So after I hear about this forever, I'm like, okay, we'll try again. I get totally different organization. A year and a half later, get the same email. Apparently, organizations are struggling for coaches, everyone, in case you want to step up. I get this email, and you would think it would be an automatic no, and I still had the mental struggle. No, it was like this internal battle. No, you're not doing this. You're sitting on the sidelines with all the parents in lawn chairs. You're not doing this. And the other part of me, but they need you. And no, we don't. Remember, the last time didn't go well. But who's going to do it if you don't do it? Remember, it was this back and forth. And I think that we all still struggle with this. That's why I think it's really good to have better questions that you ask yourself. So I'll just give you a few. Here's some questions, and I threw out some a minute ago, but these are just examples that you can use to decide if I say yes or no to something. It's not like a formula. You have to ask yourself every single one. It'd be very hard to make decisions at that point. So ask yourself if you want to do it. This is assuming you have the time. Do you want to do it? That's a really important question we never ask. And even take that a step further. Will I want to do it then? I want to do it right now, don't you?
Yeah,
I want to do everything right now. Will I want to do it then? On a cold Saturday morning in February, will I want to do it then? When I have to leave my family on a Sunday night? Well, so ask yourself if you want to do it, will you want to do it then? Ask yourself if it's a priority. I know y'all talk about this on EntreLeadership all the time, but if everything's important, nothing's important. When you decide in advance what is important to you, it will help you see what is not important. So as an example, I had a friend recently have a baby, and I signed up for the meal train to bring her meal. Everything in me wanted to cook a home-cooked meal with 7 courses and be really impressive. And when it came down to it, I was stressed, didn't have time for groceries, didn't have time to cook. And I thought, what is important to me? Is it important to impress her with my cooking skills of the Pioneer Woman 45-step ingredients? Or is it important to be a friend and show up and spend time with her? And I thought, I want to be a friend. That's what's important to me. I'm a friend, not a cook. And so I picked up takeout and went to her house and spent time with her. And when you know what's important, whatever that thing is, then it helps you see what's not important and make better decisions. You can ask yourself another couple of questions. Which will I regret? Will I regret doing that thing or not doing it? Another great question, I ask myself this a lot. Which decision gives me relief? Saying yes to coaching soccer, that makes me feel stressed and tense and anxious. Saying no, makes me feel relief. Usually relief is a good indicator that I've made the right decision. So you can just start to ask your spouse, how will this affect them? That's a really important decision, really important conversation as a family, because it's not just your time. Your time is shared with your family, your team, if you're making decisions for your company. And so I think when you ask yourself better questions, you come up with better answers. And here's what's cool, Tardy. You don't just come up with better answers, you're more confident in those answers. So when you say no, you stand behind it. You're not like weak and wobbly and going, I don't really know why I said no. You know why you said no because you thought it through and you put a lot of intentionality into that no. And so it helps you stand firm. Even when someone's like, but come on, please, we really need you. You're like, no, this is not the season for me.
It gave me a lot of freedom and exactly what you're talking about. I used to struggle with this a lot. I still do, but I struggled with it so much more before I understood this notion that Andy Stanley talks about in his book, Choosing to Cheat. And his premise is you're going to cheat somebody. You're either going to cheat work, or you're going to cheat your family, or you're going to cheat yourself, or you're going to cheat your friends. You have to decide who you're going to cheat. And it's a different take on priorities.
Right.
When we throw priorities
around. Who are you going to let down?
But when you throw priorities in there, you almost, at least I do, you go, okay, if I just prioritize everything right, I can still get all of it done at the max. And we're limited.
Yeah.
And once we realize we're limited, and there's only so much I can give to work, and there's only so much I can give to family. And so therefore, all of the demands are not going to get met.
Right.
And that's kind of like blew my mind. Like, I can't meet all the demands.
Right.
No, I'm human.
Right.
And there's something kind of, you feel a little shame and lack in that, but you also feel this freedom of like, okay, I don't have to do it all.
Well, I think to your point, when you have an expectation of yourself that if you could just be the most efficient, if you could just be the most productive and have the best time management app, you could fit it all in. And then when you don't, because you won't, because we can't, you feel like a failure. And you feel like a victim in your life. Like somehow I'm failing as a mom, I'm failing as a leader, I'm failing as a business person, I'm failing as a friend, failing myself. And you have this narrative that you're failing, which is not true. It's the wrong narrative. So let me give you, this is a silly example. This is a house example, but it's so visual, which is why I like it. So here's what I realized, Tardy. With 3 kids under 6 and a really busy job and all the things that I have going on that I love, I cannot, or I choose not to, have my whole house clean at the same time. Okay. If I was going to do that, I would literally clean nonstop and maybe have a fairy that cleans in the night also in addition, because it's like my kids mess up so quick. So instead of...
If you could invent the fairy in the night cleaning business, we would all be multimillionaires.
I would be the
game
first
changer.
First customer. But here's what I do. So it used to be, because I had this desire and expectation to have my whole house clean, because I do value a clean house. I do value that. I would go into the bonus room or go into a room and it would be messy and be like, I need to clean this up, right? I see that visual mess, and that visual mess is a representation that I'm a failure, okay? I changed the narrative. Think of this in terms of priorities. What is most important to me in my house? Most important to me, kitchen, living room, bedroom. That's where I spend the most of my time, okay? The bonus room, the boys' room, and the deck are not most important. Toys are going to get pulled out every 5 seconds. I don't see those rooms. I don't spend time in those rooms, and I'm fine if they stay a mess. Now, that seems like a really simple concept, but here's why this has been transformative. I choose what I fight for. I choose to fight to keep the kitchen, bedroom, and living room clean. Those are places that give me a sense of peace. I go there. Then when I walk up in the boys' room or walk up in the bonus room and say, hey guys, it's time for dinner, and I see that it's a disaster, I don't feel like a failure anymore. You know what I see? I see that I chose that mess. I chose that no. I chose that mess to me is a representation of time better spent, where that in the evenings I'm going to play with my kids instead of picking up every toy. And so I think you can do this with your calendar. Instead of feeling like a victim and a failure, I didn't go to that party and I didn't volunteer there. And I also didn't go to that meeting. I delegated to someone else. Instead, you say, no, I chose that no, so that I could say yes over here. And we talk about that a lot with boundaries. It's not about saying no, it's about saying yes to what's most important. We often focus on the no, the negative. We feel guilty. We feel like a failure. Focus on the yes. Hey, because I said no to that, I got to have a night at home. Because I said no to that, I got to sleep in. Because I said no to that, I took my wife on a date. And you focus on what that allowed you to do, and you feel empowered and confident and proud of your decisions instead of guilty. And I'm really big on helping people shake the guilt in their life, Tardy, because I think so many of us walk around with all this guilt, and it's not only unnecessary, it's just untrue. You are making the choices that are right for you in any season, whether that's with your calendar or your house. Pick what's most important. Pick what you're going to fight for in this season, and pick what you're going to let go. And it helps you feel that sense of confidence and shake the guilt when you see those things.